Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths is here with part 3 now finally officially releasing on DVD and Blu-ray because it came out on digital last week, so that's when most people saw it, but I had to wait till it came out on Blu-ray. As soon as it did, went to Walmart this morning, grabbed it, and I watched this movie. And this video is actually going to kind of be a review of the whole trilogy, kind of a mini review for part 1 and part 2, because I actually just watched those very recently as they were streaming on Max to get caught up before part 3 came out. So I just watched those very recently, still fresh in my mind, and I never got to do a review on the channel because I didn't get to see them until literally a week ago. So we'll talk about those and touch on them a bit as well, because there's strong points to this and some pretty low points as well. So starting off with part 1, this one I really enjoyed. It was actually quite a huge surprise to me because I wasn't expecting a whole lot, and from what I had heard, it wasn't great, but it was actually really a lot of fun. I was really concerned watching the trailers with just the way the Tomorrowverse had been set up here, and the things going on with the trailer with the Justice League already being formed and all this stuff, but then to see in this movie that's not the case, that they actually show the formation of the Justice League and them fighting Amazo and all that stuff. That was great. That was really a lot of fun. The inclusion of the crime syndicate I thought worked really nicely and worked pretty well. The only real issue I had with this film was just that it was very confusing. Like, if I did not know the storyline from the comics and I didn't know that the Flash died at the end of this, I would have had pretty much no idea what was going on. Like, to be completely honest, even though I knew the Flash was supposed to die in the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline, when this movie ended, I was kind of like, did he just die? Like, is that what happened? Or I really was not sure. But it was still a good movie. Now, part 2, well, I was pretty meh on. It wasn't a terrible movie, but it was really, the only part I kind of liked about this film was the Psycho Pirate stuff and his origins, and I really enjoyed that, especially because I didn't know much about the Psycho Pirate character. So that was an aspect I really enjoyed of part 2. And I liked the stuff with Supergirl a little bit, but for the most part, I was kind of bored with the movie. The Bat Family stuff was, it was cool in parts, but then felt to go on and drag a little bit too much. And the cliffhanger at the end was a little underwhelming. But then that brings us to part 3, Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths, closing out this trilogy and the Tomorrowverse as a whole, which again is just one of the things I want to talk about right off the bat, is that this trilogy did a really nice job of bringing a close to this animated universe, the Tomorrowverse, because this is a universe that from the start has been very convoluted. It's only a 4-year cinematic universe, and it's already over. Which, outside reasons, inside reasons, whatever it may be, it started off pretty strong. I really enjoyed Superman Man of Tomorrow. I enjoyed Justice Society World War II. I really enjoyed Batman The Long Halloween Part 1 and Part 2. But then you get into Legion of Superheroes and Green Lantern Beware My Power, and especially Justice League War World. Those movies, for the most part, kind of sucked. So I was really nervous going into these films here. And this whole time, still, I've really not been a fan of this animation style. And that is one of the biggest issues with this Crisis on Infinite Earths trilogy, is just that the animation is so cheap. There are so many moments, and to be fair, there's a lot of characters on screen for most of these movies. And so you really can tell where the budget is put and where it's not, because there's a lot of scenes where characters in the background just have one stagnant look for a 5-minute scene. So there's moments where you can see that. But part 3, I think, did a really nice job of bringing everything together, bringing the stakes to the forefront. They executed the death of Supergirl pretty darn well, and bringing all these characters together, because that is another thing, is that this is the only one that really felt like a true Justice League movie. Also, by the way, spoilers, if you haven't seen it yet already, should have mentioned that previously. But yeah, spoilers for the whole trilogy and specifically part 3. But because the first movie felt very much like a Flash movie that just so happened to have Justice League characters in it as well. Kind of like a Captain America Civil War, where it was like that was very much still a Captain America movie, but it was also kind of like half an Avengers movie as well. That's kind of what that felt like. And part two really put the focus on Supergirl and Psycho Pirate. It didn't really feel like group movie, but part three very much feels like an ensemble where pretty much every character gets their moment to shine. Superman gets great moments, Batman gets really great moments, which was especially cool because he didn't play a huge role in the original comic storyline. And I felt a bit forced. Like I like the idea of what was going on with the whole Bat family thing here. I thought that was an interesting concept of, oh, on his world he didn't have the Bat family, so to meet these other characters was really interesting. But again, it just got dragged on too long. So really honing in on the world's greatest detective aspect here was really, really cool, especially the fact that it led to uncovering this big, huge mystery of the origin of the Tomorrowverse and the fact that this actually is in fact a continuation of the DC AMU, which I'm a huge fan of the DC AMU. I love those movies and I love the way it ended with Justice League Dark Apocalypse War leading into a new universe. So there was always a theory that it was like, oh, this is what happened after that. But the way that it's actually canonized and brought to life, you're bringing back Matt Ryan as John Constantine, that same version of the character, him being the pariah type role in this storyline, was just absolutely fantastic. And the way we actually get to go back to that movie, and I was honestly satisfied with the ending of that film, of just like, oh, Barry just created another Flashpoint and like a new universe was made. But the way we actually go back to that and fully uncover and break down what happened truly, the way that John Constantine put the spell on Barry and then went back to kill baby Darkseid, which was awesome. And the fact of the explanation that Darkseid is basically a nexus being that has to exist in every universe. That was insanely awesome. That was so, so cool to see. And a great way to explain in the end why this multiverse has now been created and why it no longer can exist. And that led, of course, to some great cameos here. I mean, obviously, there's like a whole bunch of cool characters popping up here for the first time in the Tomorrowverse in this trilogy. Like, it was just great to see, like, Dr. Fate in here, and The Question, and Blue Beetle, specifically Ted Kord Blue Beetle. And then even just background characters, like I love seeing Firestorm. In this third movie, Red Tornado popped up for like 2 seconds. It was just one shot of him and I got so excited. Booster Gold showed up for like 2 seconds and then died. Even Starfire. Like there were some really cool background cameos, but obviously in part 3, we specifically have some multiverse cameos. We did in part 2 have Will Friedle as the voice of Batman Beyond, and he also voices him here as well. But I thought it was really cool to have the losers in here, to have Adam Strange, both of them coming from their DC Showcase shorts, to see that those shorts are canon to this universe. To see characters from the Green Lantern animated series with, I think her name was Aya, and Razor. That was awesome to see. To see the T-Tower from the Teen Titans cartoon. To see the Super Friends. And of course, most importantly, to see the final performance of Kevin Conroy as Batman and Mark Hamill as the Joker. Which, first of all, I'll just say, that did not sound like Mark Hamill at all. But it was still cool to see. Like, this was legitimately the perfect final performance of Kevin Conroy as Batman. Obviously, we knew they were going to be in this, and it was spoiled as soon as this movie came out on digital, like, the lines that he said in this scene, but it's so perfect. Like, I just paraphrasing here, but the way that he wanted to go out as Batman, that was just absolutely insanely perfect. And then it gave us shots of the Justice League from that universe as well, including Aquaman. And so we got to see Jon Stewart, Green Lantern, and Hawkgirl, and Flash, and Superman, and Wonder Woman. That was just truly great. I mean, no lines were said in that scene, but just to see them there on screen was just a really, really cool moment. It was really great. So I love that. That was a great use of cameos because it also, it could have gotten very repetitive of just like, oh, the anti-monitor's back, another universe has been destroyed. But showing that it was an actual universe that we care about was really cool. And I mean, that does imply that those universes are dead and like we'll never see those characters again, which is a very likely possibility. But you can also just say in your headcanon that like, this is a contained multiverse within the Tomorrowverse that just has similar looking universes, blah, 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 however you want to explain it. And let's see. Oh, another big reveal here that, again, brings the Tomorrowverse together and makes me hate Warworld a little less is the fact that Warworld, the ending of that was kind of a fake out. So Martian Manhunter's alive along with Lobo. So that was great to see and how that came into defeating the Anti-Monitor at the end. I thought that was great to see. And yeah, it had a great ending, and this movie was just really great. I do think maybe not quite as good as part one because part one was pretty great, but almost on par with part one. I will say part three, it really took me a bit to get into it. It really didn't get good until about 40 minutes in when we really got into the John Constantine stuff and all that. But once we got there, it got real good, real fast. It went hard with the Supergirl death and all the anti-monitor stuff and just the whole... I really like that this film was less confusing than the first one was. So that was really, really helpful as well. And I feel that every character just got a very satisfying ending. Even Wonder Woman, I really enjoyed that. Everything about this film was nice. It was a nice conclusion to the Tomorrowverse, and to possibly just in general us getting straight to DVD, straight to video DC animated films. Because obviously we know going forward we're gonna have the DCU, and that'll be its own thing. But man, it's been a great run. Again, the Tomorrowverse, very mixed bag, but I'm glad we at least got to go out on a good note, and especially with this, specifically this Crisis on Infinite Earths trilogy. We started off strong, in the middle it kind of sagged a bit, but we ended on a strong note as well, with a pretty decent universe of characters, and I had fun with it. We do actually have another animated film coming out this year, but obviously it's its own thing. We have Watchmen Part 1, I believe coming out like next month or something like that. So I'll probably watch that and do a review. But for now, guys, what did you think about the Tomorrowverse as a whole? What did you think about the Crisis on Infinite Earths trilogy? And specifically, what did you think about Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3 and how we ended it all? So anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so keep it up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.